Hey, what's up, guys? Been away for a while. Just got burnt out working on other things. Comics are the most labor-intensive art form, and if you're doing one, imagine doing three. Uh, but I was gonna cover war films from the and World War II films from the other side's perspective. And this is a really good film. I saw this as a kid. I remember my dad rented it, and he's like, "Oh, this is not a good movie." Meanwhile, he's of Italian blood. Okay, I'm of German and Italian blood, so it's very interesting the German Italian dynamic. Many times it's exaggerated, but there was definitely a cultural difference there. And in reference to this situation here in North Africa, particularly the second Battle of El Alamein, which is pretty much the end point for the war. I mean, there was fighting in Tunisia for another couple of months, but um, El Alamein is well remembered by the Italians for a number of reasons. The Italians, of course, in World War II always had a bad reputation, particularly early in North Africa when they were badly defeated by the British. But throughout the entire campaign, when the Germans came in to help them, the Italians were still always the bulk of the Axis forces in North Africa. And they never had the same level of equipment. Much of their infantry wasn't even motorized. Um, but as time went on, I mean, the Italians, there's no question of their bravery, but also there's no question if you really start to look at the battles. They gave it to the English and the British and the Commonwealth, and particularly El Alamein is remembered because uh, the last Italian forces were literally annihilated, but they really put a hurting on the British. It was not easy. It was a very difficult fight, and these are people that weren't equipped well, not motorized, and they were essentially, and this is not controversial to say, they were essentially abandoned by Rommel. Okay, more on that later. This film, I recommend it for a number of reasons. You get to see Italians being heroic in it, which they were. Okay, fighting against overmatched odds. You also see the conflicts between the Italians and the Germans. Sometimes it's overstated, particularly by political people, leftist people, but it did exist. Okay, and there's no question that in this battle and in other battles, Rommel essentially abandoned the Italians to their fate, particularly that they were not mechanized. They were rear guard people who were then left to basically be encircled and annihilated. I'm not a fan of Rommel for a number of reasons. One of them being that in this film you also have Michael Rennie playing a British commander who actually I am a fan of, Bernard Montgomery. Yes, I am a fan of Montgomery. He knew exactly what the strengths of his military were, and he knew exactly what you had to do in a war of attrition against your enemies. And you see the two men here. You see Rommel's fate being sealed when he questions certain things. But the film primarily focuses on the two brothers. One's a Bersaglieri, right? The light infantry, the guys with the black feathers on their helmets. And the other one's a Folgore, right? The paratroopers, who didn't even get a chance to really be paratroopers in this battle. But the legendary Battle of El Alamein, the Folgore, they stopped a British armored attack. And they also repulsed the French Foreign Legion, or is it the Free Legion? No, excuse me, the Free French. They repulsed them twice. None of these guys had heavy weapons, and you see that in the film. They had to use Molotov cocktails and mines. This is not overblown. This was done. These guys were amazing, but they weren't alone. You had the Guastoraris, I think, the engineers, the Bersaglieris, of course. You also had the regular army units, the Paduas and the Bolognas, who fought till the last thing, and then basically, I keep mentioning, were abandoned. Uh, they had no motorized any kind of motorization, so they had to march, and many were captured, many died. So, like I said, I recommend this film. It's a good film. It's good to see the Italians being heroic. You see the friction between the Germans. You essentially see Rommel say when he's given the order to stay and fight. He goes, "I'm retreating. Too bad for the Italians. It's not my fault Mussolini didn't give them, transportation." um, Also, the scene at the end, the armored battle. There's actually, from a technical standpoint, there's one scene where you actually have radio-controlled models of Mark IV Panzers being annihilated. It's actually a battle where they were just destroyed by the superior British artillery. I thought it was kind of cool as a fan of Godzilla movies. But the battle scene at the end, the biggest thing that people put on this film, right? Armor nerds. The fact that the tanks that are used, you have Patton tanks, M48s, you have M24s, the light Chaffee tanks that replace the M5s. You have M1113 APCs, those coffins from Vietnam that AK-47s could shoot through the armor of. They actually have those also. And people bring this up. But remember, Battle of the Bulge, that film, also had the same problem. I think there's a few M4s, but you didn't see them moving. The Americans didn't have these tanks working at any point. They had sold or scrapped them all. Right. On the Italian side, however, there are scenes where there is a working Semovente, right? The self-propelled gun, 75, Semovente 75s. I think there's one or two of them, and there's actually either an M15 or an M14 medium Italian tank that is working. So you actually see them, and those are not models. Those are all lifelike battles. The stunts at the end, the battles at the end, where the Folgoris pretty much go at it with the armored tanks, using mines and stuff. There's some great stunt work being done on both the people driving the vehicles and the actors and the stuntmen. A very impressive film. You should check it out. In that scene too, there's also a great scene where the Italian, or the Arietis, excuse me, the Ram division, the tank division. When you see a turret of the tank, and the tank commander basically announcing that they have been annihilated, and then he just says it very matter of factly, and then he goes inside his tank, closes the hatch, and goes forward to his destiny. I really like that scene. The Italian tankers, I'll also bring up the Arietis, Centauros, and the Littorio mechanized people with the armored cars and whatnot. They knew they were outmatched in their battles. The 47 millimeter guns were not effective against the M4s, the Shermans and the Grant tanks, and they went forward anyway, and they were all destroyed. But they gave it to their opponents too. They got close, especially with the dust and the sand. They were able to get closer than you think, where they were effective. So, as a person of Italian descent, who's far more proud of the Italians that fought for Mussolini than the ones that fought for America as criminal GIs. This is a great movie to watch. Very, very appreciative now of guys who don't stand a chance and are left to their fate. Anyway, later.